Welcome to the AICPA Town Hall Series, your resource for the latest news and updates on pressing issues facing the accounting profession.
Good afternoon and welcome to the AICPA Town Hall Series. I'm Eric Auskerson, one of your hosts for today. It is April 1st, but we've got no time for humor. We've got a lot to cover and we know you're all very, very busy. So we're going to start out with some opening comments, look a little bit back at the past year. Then we're going to get into legislative updates, talk about the tax deadline, the latest around that. And then we're going to get into PPP, and we're also going to talk about some of the other business relief programs that are beginning to roll out. And then we're going to have a special section on accounting and finance top issues. Joining me today are Tom Hood, and I can't wait to welcome him. Tom has joined the AICPA, as many of you know, as the EVP of Business Growth and Engagement. Carl Peterson is going to be doing Carl's Corner, talking about small firm issues. And you all know Lisa very well, and she's going to be giving a number of updates. So with that, let me bring Tom and Lisa up. One thing I jumped through the agenda so quickly. You know you can earn CPE by clicking on 75% of the pop-ups, and if your browser freezes, click the refresh button, and you've got that toolbar at the bottom where you can download today's resources. And looking at this slide, guess what? We've been doing these town halls for a year. What a year it's been. So this is the 1 year anniversary of the AICPA Town Hall Series. We do have a lot of thinking and strategy that goes into what we're doing, and we just thought we'd share that with you. What we call this internally the squawk box of the profession, and it's about bringing you timely and critical information, interpreting it with the latest information from our discussions with stakeholders, putting together some strategies and talking about capabilities, and it's really about driving more success for you and your firms or companies. And it's about 10,000 attendees a week, and we've got a lot of archive watchers. So Lisa, it's been a great year doing this with you. Any thoughts on our 1 year anniversary?
It's been such a great way for me to connect with so many members. People say, Lisa, I feel like I know you, and I feel like I know them from seeing their names, and they're always coming to the town halls. So it's just been an honor, truly, to be able to be part of this.
Well said. Well said. Well, Tom, and it's great to have you joining us today. You're one of the leaders in the profession. You know what an incredible year it's been related to the trusted advisor role. But there's been a very, very high workload, and it just keeps coming at us. Long list of opportunities. You're going to be kind of sharing some thoughts related to how do you manage all of this later on, but just any comments from you on the past year.
Yeah, it's certainly an honor to be here. You all have been on my old company, the Maryland Association CPA's Town Halls. Lisa was a big star on there. Eric, you were on there several times. Mark Peterson. So this work that's been done, that you're doing and have been doing, what we're now doing, is just incredible, and it's really hard to believe it's been a year. Yeah. And for all you out there, I know it's been rough, but you are now looked at higher than we've ever looked at before as a profession. So the trust and the impact that you're all having is just incredible. And thanks to a lot of what we're doing here to keep you ahead of all this stuff.
Lisa?
Agree. Absolutely perfect.
So I want to share this slide. Can you believe it? The PPP program is now larger than the TARP program of the 2008, 2009 kind of financial bailout. And this slide was highlighted recently by Mark Peterson at another meeting where he looked at the past year and added it all up, and it's $7 trillion. When you look at CARES, you look at the $900 billion bill that passed in December, you look at the recent $1.9 trillion bill, a tremendous amount of business relief, a tremendous amount of relief related to fighting the pandemic. And you can just look at it, how it stands up to these other historical governmental interventions. And what we've been doing is we're meeting with the stakeholders regularly. Even this week, Lisa and I were on a number of calls with firms and the SBA and others. And what we do is bring you the latest information. And we also ask a lot of questions and have a lot of dialogue with these stakeholders. Tom, Lisa, anything you'd like to add there?
I would say that early on, you did this, we did this, and it was essential. I mean, the connecting that ecosystem, Eric, has been probably the most important thing, is because they're all players in this massive program, and you've got to be able to see what they're thinking.
Eric mentioned we had a call this week with the SBA. The new administrator was on the call, and you could tell that she was already well briefed on the role we've been playing and how we've been engaging with SBA, Treasury, lenders, and payroll providers for the last year. And she understands that relationship has value. So I think we'll see those conversations, the dialogue continue as we go forward.
And what I can say is these town halls really do matter, because we have close to 10,000 people on this call right now. You're asking questions. We got a staff right now answering those questions. This dialogue has helped us bring these issues to these elected officials and regulators. So thank you on that. And we're gonna talk a little bit about all you've done related to the tax deadline discussions as well. So Mark Peterson's he's off this week, and here's some of the key topics in DC. We all saw Biden. Many of us saw Biden's speech yesterday in Pittsburgh. A $2.3 trillion infrastructure tax plus package. There's a lot in there. The good news is we're going to have many weeks, many months to kind of fully get our arms around it. They're talking about getting a bill by middle of the summer. So we're not going to get into that today. We've got so much more to cover, but more to come on that, and that's going to be, as we're all reading, very significant. One thing that we also want to mention is congressional oversight. There is going to be, and here's a quote from Mike Ware, the Inspector General of the SBA. He says the fraud investigations will be decade long, and that's there's a lot of logic behind that, because the SBA now has billions of dollars in loans. Some are going to be forgiven, some are not. But there, as we've said all along, it's so important to document, to be ready for these future reviews, which will be coming, so you can be well prepared with your clients. Another item, PPP Schedule C retroactive, making that retroactive. As we all know, Schedule C PPP borrowers got penalized for applying early. So if you applied in January or February, you were not aware of the change that Biden announced at the end of February, which went into effect in March. So there's a lot of discussion to make that retroactive. That's being led by Congresswoman Velazquez, Senator Cardin from Maryland. They both lead the respective small business committees in the House and in the Senate, and they're hoping to initiate some legislation when they come back from recess. They're out, and that will be in the middle of April. So we'll be watching that. We are supportive of making this retroactive, and there's some other technical fixes, such as partnership issues and other things that they potentially could wrap into that legislation. But too early to tell where that will go. So that brings us, Lisa, to really the hot topic, and the tax deadline. So I'll let you give the latest there.
Thank you. 2 weeks ago, we had Barry on our town hall, and he asked you all to reach out to your congressional delegations to explain to them the implications of a May 17 tax deadline, but no relief on the first quarter estimates. So having those still be due on April 15. Thank you so much for your outreach. It was very effective, very helpful. There is still a lot of pressure going on at the congressional letter, or at the level. There was a letter just yesterday from the House that had 60 signatures on it to Commissioner Rettig, again, urging him to extend the 4/15 extension deadline or estimated payments. So we are still continuing to advocate for that. It looks like at this point that that's about the best we'll get. We had originally advocated for a June 15 extension, but May 17, and trying to continue to keep the pressure on to get those first quarter estimates moved to May 17 is what we're working on right now. As you know, there were some things that are not currently extended. So that's C Corps, trust returns, and then I've got gift tax returns, but with a question mark, because gift tax returns are generally automatically extended with the 1040. We're looking to the IRS to give some clear, very clear guidance as to whether or not gift tax returns are automatically extended to May 17 along with the 1040s. So we'll keep you posted as soon as you hear anything. As soon as we hear anything, we'll let you all know. Speaking of the April 15 postponement, we did have a notice come out this week that gives some additional details. If you are new to the town hall, a key thing to do is make sure you download the slide deck that's in your resources, because we put a lot of hyperlinks in the slides so that you can go directly to the information that we're going to cover today, because we're going to keep things high level, but point you back to where you can get additional details so that you can dig into what's relevant for you. So on this April 15 postponement, we did get some details about what is included in the May 17 extension. So basically anything in the 1040 family is going to be included. We also got clarification around contributions for HSAs. Those are included in the May 17 deadline, along with IRAs and some of those other vehicles. There are other more niche items, so you'll see some details in the notice, and then we've got a good J of A article, also a tax advisor article summarizing the details there. Some news came out this week from the IRS saying that they were going to recalculate tax returns that had already been filed that included unemployment benefits. As you know, up to $10,200, depending on the income level of the filer, is not subject to tax, but a lot of returns had already been filed and had subjected those to tax. So the IRS has said they're going to recalculate the returns and start issuing refunds beginning in May. But those recalculations are going to happen in 2 phases. And you'll see that I've got those outlined there for you. To say this has been met with some skepticism would be an understatement, but we will wait to see how some of the guidance plays out. There's an important distinction in there about credits. If you had a filer who had claimed the earned income credit, but maybe is now eligible for more, the IRS says they're going to automatically recalculate that and include that in the refund. But if the filer didn't take earned income tax credit because the unemployment put them over the limit, the filer will have to file an amended return. So we'll see how that rolls out. We got some information through the American Rescue Plan Act around premium tax credits, and I had several people reach out through the Q&A on the town hall just to ask for some information on that. So there is a tax advisor summary of some of the key provisions. And what I want to point out on this one is I'm going to highlight what's relevant for 2020 filers. And that is basically that there is no repayment for 2020 filers if they earned more than they expected and they needed to repay the premium tax credit. So that's good news. We will see how that plays out. There are some details around 2021 and 2022, but right now we'll just focus on that 2020 provision for your tax filing season.
Well, thanks, Lisa. So what you and I will do now is just pivot. A lot of good information there on the tax extension and other related items. We'll talk a little bit about now the state of SBA and PPP lending. So here's the latest stats from the SBA. 3.5 million loans have been approved in this phase. Overall, it's 8.8 billion now for the PPP program. And one thing we're highlighting here is just our partner who's been supporting the firms in the CPA loan portal has the most loans approved in the country. And one thing I can state is right now they are only taking new applications from the 1,000+ firms that are leveraging the platform. So they are very committed to that partnership. And right now the only way to leverage Biz2Credit is to go through a CPA firm. So big, we all aware of this, the extension of the PPP program to May 31st per the legislation. But this is something that everyone is not aware of. There's really two deadlines. There's this new deadline of May 31st. And there's also this extended date until June 30th that the SBA has to process applications. But the question now is, when is the funding going to run out? And the SBA stated last week that the funding could run out by mid to late April. And they obviously are very close to the data. And what they have in their data is all of those applications that have error codes. There's well over 100,000 that still have error codes. It looks like there's maybe $60 to $70 million left right now, $1 billion left right now with those error codes, and also some draw 2 applications coming in. They're predicting that mid to late April, this funding will run out. I can tell you with that legislation, the retroactive Schedule C legislation that's occurring, if this becomes a bigger issue, potentially they'll have to allocate more funding for PPP to be determined. So here's really kind of what's occurring with the lenders and firms. The lenders are still working through those error codes. There are improvements. The SBA is giving the lenders greater abilities to certify applications, but there's still a lot of applications that are held up. Some applications have been held up for 2 months. Some lenders now are stopping receiving new applications, and others, and we were on a call with Lisa and I, they stated as soon as they know the funding's going to run out, they're going to shut down like a week before it runs out. So that's just something to be aware of. Some of these lenders that are open might be shutting down their portals before mid-April. What we're hearing from a lot of firms is they're going through, as Barry Melanson said in a previous town hall, take a look at your Schedule C clients. We know firms that are looking at their Schedule C clients, and I've heard from many firms stating that their Schedule C clients were not aware that they were eligible, and a lot of those applications are being submitted. And that's not a surprise, because only 2.6 million out of 25 million sole proprietors have actually submitted PPP loans. So Lisa, I know you're kind of active in all of this. Any comments?
It's just important to manage expectations around the PPP funding and go ahead and get the news out that it is expected to run out of money. That was, as Eric said, that was news to all of us when SBA gave that testimony last week. So it kind of changes the game, and prioritizing your applications is going to be key for these next couple of weeks.
So one other just item, if you had a client that did a draw 1 application in January of 2021 or February of 2021, they can now submit a draw 2 application. You actually don't have to wait the whole 8-week period. The SBA initially did not allow this. Now they're allowing those applications to flow. A lot of them are being submitted right now. You still need to have the 25% drop. So it's all the same rules apply for the draw 2, and you just have to certify that the funds have been used up. You don't need to wait for the whole 8-week period. So that's something important for you to know. Here, forgiveness. I can tell you that everyone's focusing on just getting in these applications, even though there is some discussion with some clients that really want to have their loan forgiven. And there's been some delays at the SBA. The new group at the SBA are very focused on putting in place smoother processes related to forgiveness. So more to come on that. But the lenders right now, many lenders are still not processing new PPP forgiveness applications. So Lisa?
Yeah, some lenders are only inviting certain clients to apply for forgiveness because they do believe that the SBA, and we've heard the SBA say that they're really trying to figure out how to streamline it for those borrowers between 150,000 and 2 million. So I know you've heard us talk about patience before, but I think if you have a small business borrower who's anxious to go ahead and apply, it might be to their benefit just to wait a little bit longer. The SBA is going to pivot very quickly to focus more resources on processing forgiveness applications and getting everything streamlined. We get lots of questions about the $2 million and above loans. They are not moving as quickly. They're not meeting that 90-day deadline that was outlined in IFR a long time ago. and the SBA knows that, but right now they've been working on the whole codes and clearing error codes and getting applications for the loan origination. But we know they'll be pivoting to forgiveness very quickly.
Yeah, and just in summary here, I mean waiting has benefited in most cases this forgiveness process. If you waited last year, you would have a better situation with ERC. So you're probably not going to be penalized by waiting, but we do know it's a client by client decision. So Lisa, I know we've got a lot here to kind of go through, a lot of great slides.
I'm going to call it this is the alphabet soup portion of the program. I wanted to remind you again about some of the resources that we have available to you. We keep this summary as updated as to the day as we can. There's a list of the topics that we cover. You'll find the link right there. For the resources I'm going to show you, you might have to create a free user account, but commitment we made a year ago is that these are open to the public. You might just have to create a few free account on the site. So here's your summary. And then there's a resource that a lot of you may be interested in on the next page that is around keeping track of all of the guidance that's been issued recently. So since the first of the year, you've got a lot of new IFRs, a lot of new applications, both for the loan and for forgiveness. So we've created a document that puts them all in one spot for you that you can easily refer back to. So that's available for you. And then our FAQs are there. We've added an FAQ this week because we've gotten lots of questions about Schedule C filers and how this loan forgiveness shows up on the tax return. So we've added a question there if that's of interest to you. If we look at PPP for just a minute, one thing I wanted to call to your attention is that if you are going to use a 3508S for your forgiveness, and again, we just mentioned there might be some streamlined between 150,000 and 2 million. So this may become available to even more borrowers. It's really important to consider the payroll amount that you're going to report on here for forgiveness, because it could impact your ability to take advantage of the employee retention credit. So as you'll see on the slide, I've circled the two spots where you input just the payroll amount and the amount requested for forgiveness. So consider if you are eligible for ERC, or if your client is eligible for ERC, make sure that that payroll number that you're reporting is not overstated, because there's an IRS notice that came out that we've reviewed on previous town halls that says if you put payroll on there, it's gone for ERC if it was used for forgiveness. So just a reminder there. Also on our call today, Eric and I had just a couple of hours ago, lenders were reporting that borrowers are accidentally, we think, miskeying the amount of loan forgiveness that they're requesting on that form. So be very careful when you're inputting that requested loan forgiveness amount that you don't leave off zeros or just put a zero, because it's really hard to get that corrected through an SBA process if you miskey it. So cautionary tale.
Right. You can amend a tax return. You really can't amend a lot of these applications that go into the SBA.
So a real quick EIDL loan update, because we've talked a lot about EIDLs over the past year. The SBA came out with an announcement that said beginning April 6th, they're increasing the maximum loan amount for COVID-related EIDL loans up to $500,000. Last week, I think it was, they had announced a loan payment deferral extension. So you've got links to stories about both of those changes to the EIDL loan program. Next up in the alphabet is the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. We reviewed it in detail on our March 18th town hall. So I'm not going to go back through all the details. A couple of things that are really important. The program is expected to open April 8th. So it's time to get that on your radar. This isn't going to apply to every single firm. It's not going to apply to all of your clients. But if you know that you've got clients in this space, then go ahead and start looking into the details, or find a firm that you know, maybe in your firm association or network, that is more that has more of a client base in this area, because they'll probably be developing capacity around it. There is a draft application form online so that you can go ahead and start looking at it if this is relevant for you. Also, as I've said before, a lot of good FAQs that are doing a better job of building the SVOG plane while before it takes off and gets into air, as opposed to what we had happen last year with PPP. So get ready, and here's some steps to help you start getting ready. The first thing to note is on the next slide, we give you a link to start applying for a DUNS number. That needs to be done quickly because it's going to be the first step if your borrower doesn't have, your grantee doesn't have that number already. So they're going to need DUNS, then they're going to need to apply in the Federal System for Award Management, or SAM program. So we've got links there for you. That could take up to 2 weeks. So time to start moving. There is a tutorial. I watched it yesterday. It should be helpful for you if you don't know how to apply for that number. Then on the next page, we'll talk about some of the things that you can start working on while that SAM number is in process. There's an application checklist, and it's pretty extensive. So start working on that, getting documentation together, calculating revenues, calculating payroll, getting an employee list, and those kinds of things. We do expect that this money could run out fairly quickly. So be ready on April 8th, if at all possible.
And one thing that it's also good thinking about partnerships too. So there's a lot going on, a lot of layering of work. Carl Peterson will be talking about that. So thinking
Absolutely.
about what the right strategy is.
This one we think will be more prevalent in your client base, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. The SBA is still fine-tuning their timeframe on when they expect to open it. So we've got a little bit of time there. But again, we talked about some of the details on the March 18th town hall, so you can refer back to the slides there. It is a grant program. The interesting thing about this one is that if you are a new business, there are some opportunities for you to take advantage of the grant. This one on the next page, I think, is when we talk about it. This one, you do not need a DUNS number or to be registered in the SAM system. So that's some good news there. There are some details released about how they'll prioritize releasing the funds. Single audits, we've talked about this in the past. Mary Folster, our good friend from the AICPA's Governmental Audit Quality Center, passed along some updates that we just wanted to bring to your attention. The American Rescue Plan Act provided a substantial amount, $350 billion in funding for state and local governments. That's going to trigger a lot of entities who have not had to get a single audit in the past to now need those. So getting that on your radar. There is a 6-month single audit submission extension that the SBA or that the OMB just signed. So you've got some details there. And I've given you a link to their alert. It'll give you a lot of good information. This one is a little more narrowly focused. So just calling it out very quickly that just yesterday, an extension was issued on HUD single audits. So you've got an extra 6 months there, I believe. And now for something completely different, but still in the alphabet soup category, we've got FASB. They issued some relief for a private company and not-for-profit entities yesterday or the day before around goodwill impairments. So you'll see some details there. We have a group within the AICPA called the Technical Issues Committee. They are the voice of small firms when it comes to the standard setting process, and they've really been trying to encourage FASB to make this relief provision available. It basically says that if you're issuing interim financial statements, you don't have to do this goodwill impairment trigger assessment. So some good news there for our not-for-profits and private entities.
Well, Lisa, that was quite a review of, I mean, many different topics, and it just shows. Look at that. You know, we were talking about the past year. We've got a lot ahead of us with new acronyms, CIVOG, and we don't know what the restaurant acronym will be yet. So so thanks. And with that, we'll bring up Tom Hood to kind of take a little step back and kind of look at the forest here. But Tom, you know, before you get going, again, welcome. It's great. It's, you know, you've been a partner and a friend for many years, but it's great to have you at the AICPA. And the other day you were talking about kind of your purpose and what you're really looking to do is in this kind of, I won't call it the final stretch, but this next stretch for you.
Exactly. Well, so first of all, it is an honor to be here. Great job, Lisa. You know, what you are keeping up on and helping to keep all of us on top of is just incredible. So Eric, yeah, I had a background as a CFO before I went to the Maryland Association CPA. Spent 15 years mid-market CFO, but active in AICPA and MACPA. And that's really where I think all my success came from. So that passion kind of got boiled into me to keep learning and to help transform the accounting and finance profession so that we all thrive in this crazy, rapidly changing world. It just got crazier in this past year. So that's really what I'm kind of all about. And so it's an honor to be here with you.
So you're gonna help us accelerate, Tom. So here you're kicking us off with your top five items in the year of uncertainty.
So it's funny, the Lady Terps, the Maryland Terrapins basketball team, you know, was trying to get up into that Final Four. They made it to the Sweet 16, but one of their mantras was all gas, no brakes. So that's kind of how I feel about what we've got to keep doing. And I know it's a long marathon, but we all have to keep sprinting through this because it's an amazing amount of opportunity. So here's 5 lessons I like to say in the year of uncertainty. You've got to stay proactive, even though you've got to keep trying to get up to speed on all this stuff. Keep thinking about what's next and what it means. So agile planning, especially for the business and industry members who are called on to help interpret and guide their businesses and their CEOs through this crazy COVID mess. So stay focused on that. I think the other one was we keep hearing all this artificial intelligence. I think AI means augmented intelligence. So make the machines your friend. So RPA, AI, all those things are wrapping around a lot of accounting software. This is both for public practice as well as business and industry, but you've got to make that read up on it and pay attention to it. CPA.com's got a lot of those resources. Now, the third one is I call it the gap is widening, and it's going to create a future performance gap. In other words, if you don't upskill your teams, you're not going to have the support you need as you move forward in all of this automation and digital transformation. So not only you, but any of the people working with you, you've got to upskill them. Like there's a saying I love that says, if you automate, you must elevate the skills of your team. So keep that in mind. Obviously, digital transformation is essential. You got to get your stuff on the cloud. You got to digitize all your processes. And then all that AI and RPA, all those things start to play in. But really, it's about the humans first. So make sure people are skilled to use that technology. And then finally, you got to take care of yourselves and each other and our whole community, because this has been an intense marathon with a whole bunch of sprints. And we're hearing that everybody is starting to hit the wall. I talked to firms and corporate CFOs, and they're all saying everybody's feeling the burnout. So what you've got to do now is like get moments where you can recharge. You recharge even if it's by day, and then get through the day and get back to recharge again. Then make some times for a mini vacation or a day off or something like that. So stay focused on your health and wellness.
I mean, Tom, even what we're trying to do here today is like this town hall here. We're looking to, we go very, very important updates from Lisa, and here's a little kind of just strategy, discussion on kind of how to manage through all of this. And this is we've had this 2020, 2025 slide. You've got you got a kind of interesting diagram here.
Well, it's the exponential change of all the technology, right? It's leaped us ahead. They say e-commerce has accelerated by 10 years. Right. Obviously, everything else is accelerated by equally that much. So keep in mind that things are moving faster, and we've got to continually use this community to kind of stay up to speed on all this stuff so we can stay ahead of it. So yeah, how many of you, like when you showed that slide, Lisa, I'm going, it's been a year, but it feels like some days it feels like it's been a couple of weeks. Other days it feels like it's been 10 years. So your stretch of time is really distorted in this moment.
Absolutely.
So the top three issues that we're seeing, this is coming out of the CFO community. Obviously digital transformation, but the key point here is plugging a new technology in isn't adequate. You and your teams have to be trained to actually maximize it. So it's like not doing digital, but being digital. Whole digital mindset is what you need to adopt in this rapid acceleration. Role stretch is the stretch between getting the numbers right and closing the books and getting the reports out to the business, and being the strategist, right? Guiding the CEO and all the business units on what's next. So I think we're seeing that's that talent performance gap if you're not training everybody properly, which goes to the last one, which is competencies. And it all starts with mindset. If your team doesn't have a good, we call it the future ready mindset, that they're thinking about a positive future and making time to automate a lot of that stuff so they can get to the strategy stuff, that's where you have to start.
Tom, this makes a lot of sense. Even with the recent last 90 days, when people are looking at the different platforms for the business relief and PPP, and now Lisa just covered what's going on with CIVA, the Shuttered Venue Grant platform, and it's just understanding what is this digital platform? How am I going to use it? What am I going to do? And it's important. You got to dive into it, then you got to step back, and even just some of the basic, simple things that has become so critical, like doing digital signatures or uploading, bank information, and that's mandatory now. It wasn't mandatory a year ago, but it's mandatory now because no one's kind of going in person to sign contracts.
Right, exactly, and the better you are at that, and better your team is at that, you'll be able to continue to do more with less, and that's where it gets to being able to keep up with all this crazy change.
Tom, I saw a tweet this morning from a CPA in public practice, and he basically said, for the last year, I've had no clients in my office, no clients dropping off paper because everything had to be uploaded digital. A few want to go back to bring in paper, and he's saying, well, I'll let you, but there's going to be a scanning fee. And they've changed their mind. They're like, well, maybe I can do this digital thing after all. So you kind of have to, train everybody to adopt that digital mindset that you were talking about earlier.
And this is the opportune time to do that, Lisa, because you can blame it on COVID, right? You got to say, I can't do this in a paper way anywhere near as efficiently as I've been doing. So I'm going to have to charge you a premium for all my people that are going to have to move paper around. And that's a great opportunity to do that. But I think that's a very smart way for especially our practitioner community to start pricing it differentially, and don't fall back to those old ways, because people are able to do it.
Yeah.
And this slide, this is just what we brought over with the Business Learning Institute, which is now part of the association. So it just speaks to the notion of these boundary crossing wide competencies on top of the deep technical expertise of both the CPA public accounting side as well as the management accounting CPA CGMA side. So we're looking at how do we build on that and give those skills that you're going to continue to need to be ready for this crazy future.
Well, Tom, one last question here. You and I have been talking about the convergence of MA and PA side. We client accounting services, virtual CFOs, table stakes now, and then in the advisory role they play there, then the advisory role that a CFO is playing. So there's a lot of overlap on kind of skill development there.
It's amazing, Eric, and you can see it. It's all happened in this year. The move toward more CPA firms going into heavier client accounting, CFO advisory, or just advisory services, and the discipline that management accounting CFOs have been getting, which has a lot to do with some of the same skills. So I think you're seeing this broad umbrella now where we can get the same skill sets for both audiences. So look for that in the coming year or so as we get moving together inside the association.
Well, I look forward to kind of just doing a discussion with you on the FP&A side as well, because I think that's an emerging category for both the firm and for the CFO area. So now we're going to move so Tom, thanks. We'll bring you back an open forum, and we'll bring Carl up here. Carl's Corner, one of the favorites, Carl, of the past year. You put things in great perspective due to your background and all the firms that you're talking to all the time. So I'll let you kind of think through what their strategy should be for the next 2 weeks here.
Yeah. Thanks, Eric. So that's funny. Well, that I talk with firms and members every week, and I'm on some group emails with practitioners around the country, and everyone is working their ass off. I mean, the pressure is more intense now than it's ever been. And it's close to home for me, actually. Yesterday, between Zoom calls, I went upstairs to my wife's office to see how it was going. And, she's a CPA in public practice. And she looks at me with a look that suggested that I have lost my mind and that maybe I should just leave her alone. But as you mentioned, Eric, there's so much layer of work right now. You're in financials, tax preparation, PPP applications for loans, PPP applications for forgiveness, ERTC for your business clients. First quarter payroll reports are coming due, and there's a strong housing market with low interest rates, and clients are refinancing, buying new homes. I can't tell you, Eric, how many practitioners in the last 2 weeks have talked about underwriters asking for CPA comfort letters, or the mortgage underwriters wanting 2020 tax returns that aren't even close to being done. No pressure, right? Yesterday during a call with a friend of mine as a CPA, said, please just make the underwriters stop asking for tax returns. Who has time for these underwriters? Another friend of mine the other day out on the East Coast, another CPA who's probably listening today, says, Carl, if I didn't have to sleep, life would be so much better, especially during tax season. These comments, really highlight, I think, the need to take control. I mean, it is April 1st. You need to take control and manage those client expectations and plan out your strategy for the next 2 weeks. The extension of the individual tax due date to May 17th really shouldn't automatically mean that your client has an extra 4 weeks to get their data to you. You need to hold them to that engagement letter, which probably includes a date in which their data must be in for you to complete their tax returns by the due date of the tax return. For some firms, that date is probably like March 15th. And our firm, when I was in practice, was usually around March 23rd. The relief of May 17 should be your relief, not theirs. So here's some of the things that I think you should consider for strategy in preparing for the next 2 weeks. Plan it out. List your action items. First thing, today or tomorrow, send a letter or an email to your clients to remind them that if their data was not in by March 23rd or whatever date you had in that engagement letter, you are extending their tax returns, period. Yes, I mean, there will be returns that get done, but don't give them hope. Do not commit. You are trying to relieve the pressure that's on you and your staff while managing client expectations. You might need to emphasize that it's more cost effective to extend than it is to amend. So for our firm, by now, April 1, our firm would be contacting our clients that had not dropped off their data and asking them what they wanted to do for extension payments or their first quarter estimates. Often it was ultimately, how much money do you have today in the bank? Just let me know and let's just pay it all in. Seriously, you don't have time to hold everyone's hand this late in the season. And second, what is coming up before May 17th? Corporate returns, they're still due April 15. The shuttered venue operator grants are opening up in 7 days from today. The restaurant revitalization funds are most likely to open up before May 17. These all need to be on your radar, even though there's essentially no guidance for the restaurant revitalization funds and only a draft application form today for the shuttered venue grants. So what are your plans for helping clients get that shuttered venue grant? What is your firm's position? You need to decide that now and make it a part of your 2 week strategy. Figure out your options. And I think there are actually 2 options. We might have had only 1 or 2 clients that would have qualified for the shuttered venue grant. And I don't think we would have had the time to learn all that there is to learn about the program for only 1 or 2 clients. We probably would have looked to refer that out to another firm that really was into that market. Over the past several months, I've actually seen more referrals happening within a couple of different networking groups that keep me in their email chains. And one of the great things about being a small firm is the strong relationship that you have with your client they know the value of your referrals, and referring that grant application to another firm that you know is not going to make you lose that client. It probably actually makes your client relationship even that much stronger. So, if you do have several clients that might qualify for the grant and you decide as part of your firm strategy to assist your clients to get the grant, then not only should you be learning everything you can to be prepared, you should empower your client, have them go to the SBA site and learn about the program. Have the client start on the preliminary application checklist that Lisa mentioned earlier. The information on that SBA site, it's tremendous. And an educated client is so much easier to work with. It'll make it more efficient come the 8th of April when you help them apply for that grant money. I can't emphasize enough, Eric, that the importance of taking control now or the next week or two. PPP loan forgiveness applications are going to become a higher priority for your clients. As Lisa mentioned, there's no need to rush it through for your clients, but you will feel that pressure. Don't cave into that pressure. And your 2-week strategy may change as information comes out on the Restaurant Revitalization Fund application process. And I can only imagine how fast these funds will go. A lot of small firms have restaurant clients. We did when I was in practice, and they depend on you being there for them. So, Eric, I'm going to end this on wellness. And
I have this question before you go to wellness, Carl. I mean, that was just a great summary, and I saw some powerful insights. The strategy you just mentioned about, one, encouraging a client if they wanted to kind of empower themselves, and then answer the phone for them if they've got questions, or partnering, that makes a lot of sense. And one other thing that I want you to comment on is there's so many unknowns. I mean, that's the thing that I think one thing I've learned in the past year is that you don't, like this recent PPP, we had no idea there'd be 65 error codes, and there were 65 error codes. So when you set these expectations, it's also saying, we don't know. Maybe the shuttered venue grant program, the platforms will work well at the SBA. Maybe they won't. Maybe there'll be changes. Maybe there won't. So so just kind of comment on that, on just how don't give guarantees is what I said. Because I've heard firms said, hey, I told my client I was going to help them with this, and they're not funded yet, and it's because they're held up in an SBA error code. That's, in some cases, it's well beyond your control, and then the firm is putting a lot of pressure on themselves for things that that they're just trying to facilitate.
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned, when you manage those client expectations, and by communicating with them right now, and don't commit that you're actually going to get the returns done. Don't commit that these things are going to happen. You have no idea, like you said, what the process is going to be for some, like the restaurant funds. You don't know the process. You don't know the hiccups. I mean, we had no clue, I don't think, that the PPP, the second round here, was going to have those error codes, right? Yeah. And how do you deal with that? I think you have to put into your strategy and your 2-week plan some, just the opportunity to be able to pivot. You might have to pivot, make some other changes. And, the more anxiety, you're going to have more anxiety if you start to make commitments that you ultimately can't meet. So that's a great point.
And Carl, on the empowering the client, asking the client to go ahead and start taking a look at some of those pre-application checklists, a lot of that information is going to have to come from them anyway, because they're asking for corporate documents, square footage plans. For the shuttered venue grants, it's very detailed depending on the type of operation it is. So asking the client to take a look at as much of that as they can and start working on that, and then fill in the pieces, fill in the gaps if needed.
Yeah. And don't we expect that fund, Eric or Lisa, to go pretty quickly? Or do we have any sense of that?
That one, I don't know if we have a sense as to whether or not it's going to go quickly. So
yeah,
I would expect that they will, because it has been a long road, especially for so many. These are small community theaters. These are museums. These are very small nonprofit organizations that have been shuttered. So there's a large audience for this group of money.
Well, I'll say one thing. We said this on the SBA call. I think this is not the best strategy to roll out relief programs that are not fully funded. It drives crazy behavior. and the programs should be fully funded, and they try to make them fully funded because this then creates a rush. It creates a rush. It creates anxiety, and so hopefully I'll tell you that we're advocating that. We're even like with this recent round, they extend PPP, so make sure there's enough funding till May 31st, or tell people that it's really only to April 17th. Same thing with the shuttered venue grant. It's just there should be enough funding. I mean, it's like saying, if they in your town, we're only going to give, vaccines for half the people, and here storm the football field to get it. It doesn't make any sense. So I think we got to continue to work on that. This idea that money's running out needs to stop. So hopefully we'll take that message, but those are the risks. We don't know. I mean, and that's what's happened in the past year. At times, unfortunately, the money runs out. It's different than tax credits and other things.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. That just think about the intensity. I think it kind of rolls right in, and all the different things that could happen. It rolls right into this last bullet point, that the need for having wellness for yourself. And I'll just share with you too that, when I was in practice, especially this time of year, here we are, April 1st, and the intensity is so great in the last few weeks of the tax season. And that's when a lot of your, high income, high net worth clients, maybe their data's finally all in. But, I'll tell you, I used to tell my clients, if you want me to do a good job or a great job on your return, which really means not only just, doing it right, but, also to consider tax planning and business operational changes, all those things that I think about when I'm reviewing and finalizing your return and your financial statements. It probably means it's best to go ahead and to extend at this point in time, because my head will be clear. Now is not the right time to really, push through some of these tax returns and things you have to get done. So my suggestion right now is to take the next, to get through the next 2 weeks, take a day off. This weekend would be a great weekend to take it off, because I know every small firm practitioner is working every day of the week. So take a day off this weekend if you can, or take a day off every day just to walk away, exercise, go out to get something to eat, grill outside, do something, and just breathe. And I'll tell you, share one more thing about what I did in practice. One tax season, I took almost every single lunch period and went to the driving range with only 2 clubs in my bag. And that summer was my best year of golf ever. My short game was good. It was great relief, right? And the work was still there, still has to get done. But I think I was way more productive by taking that time and getting away. And so, just taking that time off is great. But I get it though, right? I mean, you don't feel like you can take the time off for even an hour. So I get it. Work while taking that walk, map out your 2-week strategy in your head, think it through, and then write it down when you get back. I think just taking that break from the intensity is going to help the wellness for yourself. So, hopefully Eric and Lisa, that CPAs can take control of the next 2 weeks.
Carl, that's a fantastic. Go ahead, Lisa. We'll bring Tom up. We can use that even like as a closing slide, go into open forum. But that's a fantastic closing. We might Carl, in a future Carl's Corner, you might have to give some golf tips. Okay. All right. So with that, we've got a lot of questions. We've got it's all we're close to I don't know what the number is, like 9,000 attendees here, something like that. And that's pretty impressive considering all that's going on. One question that's come in that I'll just take, Lisa, then you can grab another question. People want odds. They want odds on whether the what the quarterly estimates will it get extended. And I actually reached out. When we were on this. I reached out to Barry and Mark, and I figured why not get the odds from them. And they responded, and 50-50. 50-50 that the court, and that maybe Lisa, I don't know, that's actually coming from Barry Melanson, a text back. So I'm going to state that 0 chance on the May 17th being pushed out, 50-50 on quarterly. So, and I know, Lisa, you had a discussion with Ed Carl, the leader of the tax area. I think everybody wants an imminent decision. So I don't know if you want to add any comments to that prediction.
Yeah, that's a great question. We understand that if the IRS doesn't agree to move that extension date soon, like very, very soon, we understand that it's not going to help you. And we are pushing really hard on multiple levels. So just understand that we We know this is a pain, and we are actively trying to get Commissioner Rettig to move on it. We have gotten a lot of questions about FBARs and whether or not what their due date is. I'm going to read this so I don't mess it up. So just bear with me while I read the answer. The FBAR is due April 15, following the calendar year reported. You're allowed an automatic extension to October 15 if you fail to meet the FBAR annual due date of April 15. You do not need to request an extension to file the FBAR. So if you do nothing by 4/15, the due date becomes 10/15. So hopefully that clears up, 500 or so of the questions we've gotten.
Excellent. Well, I've got a couple. I'm going to throw a question to Tom, and I'll throw it to Tom first. Then there's a kind of a tax question. I'll throw to Carl and Lisa. But to you, Tom, how do you push digital at those clients that just don't have sophistication?
I think, well, that's when hopefully you've got a group that's helping to make that outsource it. So I would pivot to your outsource or get another firm that's doing that to partner with you on that. But clearly this is a time when, just about even small businesses are pivoting to digital. Just go to your average restaurant and watch the QR codes and the cashless transactions. It's a wave that's not going to slow down, and they're just going to fall further and further behind competitively.
Okay, that's great. And I'll take this quick PPP question, then ask the tax question. But the PPP it's on forgiveness. Want to know if 10-month deadline has been extended, and I think this is something that I guarantee you they've got to look at. They've with where they are at on responding to forgiveness applications, where the fact that the lenders had to stand up a PPP2 program. So I think that's absolutely something that we'll be hearing about. Lisa, I don't know if there's anything you want to add, but I think these are the kinds of things that when you wait, you'll probably find out that there's going to be assume positive intent, and there'll probably be some flexibility. Lisa?
Yeah, so buried in an IFR that we came across recently, the payment due date is now, it's still deferred 10 months, but it's after the longest maximum covered period. So if you're a borrower in this 2021 round, your payments are going to be due 10 months after a 24-week covered period, regardless of the covered period that you're actually using for your loan forgiveness. So there's a little more room there before the payments are going to become due. And lenders don't have a way, because under the Rescue Plan Act, I can't remember which one changed it, could have been the Economic Aid Act, borrowers can now choose any covered period between 8 and 24 weeks. So lenders are just going to assume it's 24 weeks and calculate the 10-month deferral from there.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. We got to do a lightning round because we got to get to the resources. But Carl, Lisa, that people are saying there's a higher incidence of e-files being rejected. Anything, and do we know anything on that?
I have not heard anything on that myself.
Yeah, I haven't heard that.
I will take that. We'll take that. And Carl and Lisa and Tom, a lot of great comments about all the wellness strategies. So thanks, Tom. Great having you here. Look forward to having you back. Yes, and Carl as well. So let's Lisa and I will just move through these some important resources here as we close out. So you can bring the slides back up, Lisa.
Yep, I added some details so you can figure out which town hall to go back to. So you've got all your listings there. And then if you go on to the next one, this is the look at our SBA site. I've highlighted that we've got the accounting and reporting resource there on the page, so you'll find it. And then I think we're talking about the Biz to Credit portal.
Right, so real quickly here, we have this twice a week, and I'm gonna throw a question out that one thing that we're thinking right now, only CPA firms are leveraging the Biz to Credit platform. A lot of you are not, on that platform. Would you be interested in referring a client to one of these firms? You can just right now just say yes, you would, because that's something we could stand up potentially next week. We've got a resource center. So Lisa.
Yep, some tax resources around the employee retention credit. We still need a lot of guidance there, but we do have some information available for you. And then on the next one, the state tax treatment chart, the tax team is continuing to keep that updated for you.
And then here we're staying connected on social. Finally, we are going to have a town hall next week, April 8th. Some of you might say, hey, why are you having one next week? And it's because we set the schedule. We set the schedule in January. We didn't want to have one on April 15th. We didn't know that the date was going to be extended. And that's the why. So we look forward to being with you next week. There's a lot to cover. Thank you for your engagement. Thanks for the past year. Thanks, Lisa. And we'll hope you all, take a day off like Carl suggested.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for your participation. You can now subscribe to the AICPA Town Hall series on your favorite podcast platform, as well as watch archives on YouTube and AICPA TV. Tune in for live broadcasts Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time.